Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira from Munira's Musings. How are you, everybody? It's been a while, but we were trying to figure out the next step in our podcast. There's a lot of things to learn, always. So Munira's Musings is a program where we find people who are making a difference in other people's lives, and then we bring them on our show and we showcase them. One such person is Joe Petroski. He's here from Delray Beach in Florida, and he's here to talk about intuitive healing. So without further ado, welcome to our show, Joe.
Well, thank you, Munira. I appreciate it. Good morning to everybody. It's bright and early, that's for sure.
Yes, it is. It's dark out here, and it hasn't yet, the sun hasn't yet peeked out of the clouds, but it is what it is, and we are here because the world has to go on, and there is a message that you have to share with us, Joe. So Munira's Musings not only showcases people, but we also try to bring some points. There's a lot of people out there right now who are trying to figure it out, and they haven't yet figured it out. So we're going to talk about that with Joe because he has helped me a little bit to move and shift my thinking. So we'll see what he does. So Joe, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I've lived past my expiration date. Some of the best doctors in the world knew that I had less than a year to live. They sent me home to die in 1999. And the doctors, some of them actually thought I was crazy because I continued to try and work. And then when I was unable to work, and what would happen is I would actually lose the ability to see. For example, there would be no way that I'd be able to tell you that you're a human being, or that there was a sailor cap, on your picture up there. I wouldn't be able to see any of that. I could see it, but I couldn't tell you what it was. And so it was a very scary illness. But I tried and tried and tried. And one of the messages is don't give up. And certainly there's days that are going to suck rocks. There's going to be days that are going to be so darn hard. And you can't see, through the clouds. You can't see, and sometimes you can't see. But feel that inner wisdom inside you. Feel that inner in you, and don't give up.
So when you say see, are you talking literal see, or are you talking like when it's right in front of us, but we can't see?
Well, when I was sick, I could see, but I couldn't tell you what I was seeing. So, for example,
comprehending.
Yeah, my brain couldn't translate it. And so, for example, I was watching TV with my daughter, and it was like big yellow funny voice, big yellow, but it's not Big Bird because it's blue. And so my brain couldn't comprehend that Big Bird would be on the TV screen one time, and then that the Cookie Monster would show up on the other. And then when I would look out the front window, well, actually the bigger part is the doctors had my wife at the time move pictures around. And so there was a picture over here that had been up there for years, and the same thing. And so she switched them, and I couldn't tell you that she switched them. I just said, well, that's the cat, in the vase, and that's the flowers over there. But she had switched them, and I couldn't tell you that. I was unable to read, and it was very, very scary. But I can, they literally thought that I was crazy because I kept on trying to live. They knew that I had less than a year to live, and I kept on trying anything and everything that I could. NAAT, Bioset, any kind of, shamanic, Reiki, Qigong, you name it, I tried it. Until I met this Chinese healer, and I went to him and his students. And after the second hour, I no longer needed the oxygen. And after the third, I was completely healthy. And so I trained with him for 5.5 years.
Did you say hours?
Hours, yeah. 2 hours, one session, and then the second session, the second 1 hour session, or, so 2 hours. And
so what did he do? Did he do acupuncture on you, acupressure?
No. So when you do energy healing, and when you do it well, basically the whole idea is that you are literally the conduit. And there's one healer Fool's Crow. He's a Native American healer that's long past, but he talked about being a hollow bone. And he says that, here's creator and here's your client, and you try and be that hollow bone. So you don't let your energy interfere with creator's energy. You're that conduit, you're that channel. And so when I look at a client, very often I don't look at them, because if I look away, I can sense and feel their energy better. And then as I pay attention to their energy shifts. In quantum physics, they call what I do the observer effect. They found that when you observe an experiment, it is going to change. There's no choice but it to change. And so I simply observe, and then as I observe, the client starts to become better. And when they come in, for example, and they say that, my knee is killing me, and the doctor says that I need to have a knee replacement. Well, I look at the situation, and very often it's not going to start with the knee. It might start with the hip or the back, or the neck. And I start to pay attention to that energy. And then I ask them, how is your knee feeling? And their knee will start to feel better. And usually at the end of the first or second session, they have 100% range of motion and zero pain. And nothing's guaranteed. I've had, there's nothing that I know of that works 100%. But it's also, for me, I sneeze when I'm doing the healing, and I yawn when I do the healing, and those kinds of things. My throat will get clogged up. And so it's very important to really say that there is not one type of healing for everybody. For example, it's like, okay, what's your favorite food? Not everybody agrees the same food, not even the same, ethnicity of the food. What's your favorite music? Not everybody listens to the same music. So why would we think that there's going to be one healing and only one healing? That's ludicrous. And so what my thing is never give up. Never give up. If you feel in there, try and it's also, life is supposed to be a team sport. Okay. The whole idea of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps that's baloney. Okay. Certainly there's a lot of things that we have to have, and we have to have that internal gumption, that internal drive, that desire, certainly. But it's also one of those things where, everybody gets to be able to have help. Everybody gets to, it's one of those things where, like Jesus had 12 apostles. Okay. Each of one of the apostles had gifts and talents and everything like that. Okay. In the tribal system, they had herbalists, they had medicine people. They had people that you were supposed to be able to rely on. When you had troubles and issues, you would go to an elder. We never did it alone until what ended up happening is this, it was a whole religious thing or Christian thing where it's like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And that was because they wanted you to basically have to rely on that guy, on the altar. So it's all intertwined. And so rely on your inner self, certainly. Go to your inner self. But when life is difficult, when life is hard, find people that you can trust. Don't do this alone. And, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, find somebody that you can talk to, find somebody that you can trust. YouTube is loaded with all kinds of different inspirational people and inspirational healings. And there's a book, Spontaneous Remission. Spontaneous remission is it was written by an oncologist. And what it was is she was seeing so many people just spontaneously healed. She says, there's got to be something to this. And what she found is that when people went to their own essence, when they went to their own thing, they had miraculous healing. Some people would go and they would just listen to humorous tapes, or watch humorous videos, and they would just surround themselves and immerse themselves in that for a week. And all of a sudden their tumors were gone. Some people would sing and sing and sing and sing because that was their thing. Same thing. And so when we do what's in our true nature, we become healthier and healthier and healthier. And so what I encourage people to do is to listen to themselves. And if people want, there's a set of power positions that I show people, and they can, drop their email in here and I'll send you the power positions. Because there's certain hand positions that when you just simply get in touch with your own body, your body, starts to have that beautiful, wonderful loop. Okay. Because everything in nature is circular. And it's kind of like an electrical outlet. One side of the electrical outlet all by itself does nothing. The other side all by itself does nothing. Well, when you combine the two, it creates that circle, and it creates that power. And so trust yourself, allow yourself that aspect, and reach out to people. And especially this time, what ended up happening with all this COVID crap is, the separation of the separation, the separation, and the 6 feet is bullshit. The 6 feet doesn't do jack crap. They actually know that if you, for example, my sneeze is going to go on average 10 feet. Okay, they know that. And if somebody screams, it's going to be 8 or 9 feet for the germs to go like that. So the 6 feet, the only thing that stops at 6 feet is our auras. Okay, most people, when you disengage, when you back up, you're no longer connected to that person energetically. And so when you break that barrier and you come back in, what ends up happening is you become closer. And so that's the whole reason for 6 feet. Otherwise, they would have told us 10 feet.
So a few things that you said. Let's start with, okay, you were sent home to die.
Yes.
And then you found this Asian fellow,
Yes.
Asian doctor, and then you met this Indian healer.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
He's a Native American healer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how did you find these people?
So I was in a support group for people with chronic illness, and one of my friends from the support group went to see this Chinese healer, this Asian, and she called me up and she said, "Joe, there's this guy in town, and he's actually working on some of our friends, and it's amazing." And she talked about some people, and there was a woman that didn't cut anybody any slack, and she actually walked off the stage without her walker, and I was like, "Damn, if it happened with her." But I was going through a nasty divorce, and they were using my illness to keep my children away from me. And so I had to be very, very careful about what I did, because when I would get sick, I would be in bed for 3 to 4 days minimum. Okay. And so when I didn't have my daughters, I had to be able to be on oxygen for 3 or 4 days. So when they would come and be with me, I could be able to be with them for, 3 days to have that energy. And so I had to be very careful about it. And the last day was Monday. And I said, no, I couldn't go until Thursday. And so Monday night, she called me up and she said, "Joe, they added a Thursday." So I was like, okay. I sat up in bed and was like, I'm going. And so I went, and at the end of the presentation, the fellow was still working on people, and I went and I waited my turn, and all of a sudden it came to me, and there was a pain that I would get right here, and that would let me know that soon I was going to lose my vision. And he went and he was able to make that pain would stay for 3 or 4 days. He was able to make that pain go away just like that. And I was just like, wow. And he looked at me and he says, "You can do this too." And I looked back at him with all the doubt that I could muster. And he never said a word, but with his eyes, he said, "Yes, you can." And so that's how I met him. That's how I went to him and his students. He set me up with a mentor, and I trained with the mentor 3 to 4 days every single week for at least 3.5 years, and then on and off for another 2. The Native American, a buddy of mine was Native, and he had always wanted me to go to a sweat lodge because he knew the healing power of sweat lodges. And so he wanted me to go, but because of, all the smells and everything like that, that would, when you go into the sweat lodge, it's very small, very hot. So whatever they have in their body, if they've had, tied clothes on, you're going to smell that. If they have any hair stuff or whatever, you're going to smell that. So I couldn't go. Well, when I got better, I went. And when I showed up, as soon as I showed up, there was an elder, and the elder, goes like this. And my buddy's like, "Oh, this should be interesting." And he goes, he doesn't do that. And so we went up, and the elder says, "You sit." And he told my buddy, he said, "You go work." And so that was my first experience. And we sat, and there was a variety of things that occurred and that happened. And as I sat with him, he opened up, and he started to feel the energy of the rocks, the plants, the trees, you name it, the water. And I started to be able to feel that too, because of me being empathetic, and him being that empathetic as well. And that's also when the people that had passed away started to show up. And so the Native American helped me feel energy in such a deep, profound, amazing way. And so when I combined the kind of the issue, the Chinese and the Native American, it was a great melding. And after 5.5 years, my Chinese teacher came and he says, Joe, he says, you need to go teach what you're doing because you're doing differently than I taught you. And so it was really wonderful to have both of those experiences, because the Chinese fella, he helped me because when I was a kid, everything that I ever thought or felt was beat out of me. And I learned, people say it's better to be seen, not heard. It's like, no, if they can't see you, they can't beat you. So I would not speak and I would hide. And so I was very, very, very shy. And so when I started to do the energy work, I couldn't hide anymore. I realized that God did give me an incredible talent, an incredible gift. And that was weird for me because I was always told that I wasn't good enough. Why couldn't I be like other people? I'll never amount to a hill of beans. All of those things were yelled and screamed at me when I was being beaten. And so when I started to do this healing work, I couldn't deny it anymore. I had a talent, and I was actually really good at it. And the people that healed me, one of them was my mentor. And my mentor, he says, hey, Joe, he says, you don't get it. He says, I'm teaching you this. So when you get it, he says, I can retire. He says, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to retire. But he says, you're better than me. And this is the man that healed me. And it was something that quite quickly, it became true. I was able to help people that nobody else was able to help. So I say, bring me the hopeless causes. Bring me the people that are told that there's nothing, that it's permanent, it's never going to go away, that they're stuck with it. And I love those because there's no place but going up from that. And Dr. Bernie Siegel talks about it in his book, Love, Medicine, Miracles. He says it's against the Hippocratic Oath to give a prognosis. He says, we're not God. He says, our clients, he says, I don't have patience and I don't expect my clients to have patience. And that was something that I took to heart when I was sick, is I had patience for nothing. I did every single thing that every single doctor, chiropractor, nutritionist, psychologist, psychiatrist, you name it, biofeedback person, anybody that told me to do something, I did it because I was trying to live.
So did you ever figure out what was the cause of the issue that you had?
Well, yeah, there was a whole smear of things. Oh, that was weird. There was a lot of things that were going wrong with my body. My medical file was about this thick with all the different tests that they had run. And so what was happening is they would fix one part of my body, and then the other part of a different part of my body would fail. And so they found that what was going on is that everything that I breathed, everything that touched my skin, and everything that I either ate or drank was my body saw as an allergen or a toxin, and my body tried to kill it and attack it. Well, you need oxygen to breathe, you need food to survive. What was happening is I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker every day, and I was emaciated. And so they called me a universal reactor. And a universal reactor is basically, like I said, anything that I ate made me sick, anything that I breathed made me sick, anything that touched my skin made me sick. And so it was a very scary illness. And when I look at it, why? I mean, I did have jobs that I was in construction, so I worked with strippers, I worked with polyurethanes, I worked with all kinds of different chemicals when I was in construction. Before that, I was in photography, and I was in the darkroom. I worked with all kinds of chemicals. When I was at the airport, I was surrounded by benzene and kerosene all the time. And so there was all the chemical exposure for certain. But in reality, what I look at it is all the abuse that I had, all the horrible things like that. When I was sick, I had to tell people, you can't do that around me. You can't do that near me, let alone you can't do that to me. And so I had to stand up and I had to tell everybody. And 2 days after the doctors told me to die, that I was going to die, my parents came over. My dad, he was an angry man, and he had some issues, and he never believed that I was really, really sick. He thought I was just depressed and, lazy. So I was in there in the easy chair, and I was sucking on the oxygen, having a bad day, and trying to keep my vision. My vision was coming and going. And My dad slams the back of the chair down and, puts his face right next to my ear and screams at me. And um, he says, "You have a family, get up out of this chair and go to work and pretend that they mean something to you." And I'm just like, well, I mean, I had to teach my 3-year-old daughter how to, cook. I had to teach her how to make macaroni and cheese. When I was healthy enough, I would make, extra macaroni and cheese. And I showed her how to make, hot dogs in the microwave, because sometimes I couldn't see, I couldn't cook, I couldn't get up out of the chair. And so I had to tell people, you can't do this to me. You can't treat me like this. And when I started to put boundaries out like that, it was amazing. My ex-wife, she left. 8 months later, I found this healer, and I was better,
So it was meant to be, right? It was meant that you were supposed to heal and you were supposed to heal other people. So you talked about the 3 points. You said, don't give up. And then you said, don't and rely on your inner self. What is one more point you want to share with the people who are listening?
Well, that, rely with other people, trust other people, connect with other people, find when we've done everything that we can there, if we meet with somebody else, what ends up happening is whenever we connect with anybody, there's an energy exchange. Okay. And so if we can find people that mean something, that are helpful, whether it's in a video watching or whether we actually meet with them, is powerful. And for me, it was really important and powerful to meet with people, even though very, very often what would happen is I would get sick because they, smelt of different chemicals, hair mousse, laundry detergent. If they stopped at Walmart or Target, there'd be smell in their clothes. And so, but when I had that energy exchange with people, it would boost me sometimes for 2 or 3 days. So I asked people to go ahead.
No, go ahead. So you ask people
to don't live alone, don't be alone, And so when I say don't live alone, certainly, I mean, I've lived alone for years, at times. But when I go out and I connect with people, when I see people, when I talk with people, when there's an interchange, my energy goes up. And when people are sick, they need that support. They need that connection.
So you haven't had any pains after you've healed? You haven't had the pain in the back?
Oh, no, that's been gone. I can eat, drink, smell anything that I want, and I don't get sick. I've gone back and I had a house. I bought a house. And so I did all the construction stuff that used to make me lose my vision. I did all the construction stuff on my house for 2 years. I've ran a gas lawnmower. I've run a gas snowblower. I've traveled on airplanes. I've danced with women that have wonderful perfume, horrible perfume, and I do not get sick from things like that anymore. No.
So, so it's so incredible that you found a healer who could heal you. And then second, now you're helping other people get to wherever they need to go. So is it just healing that you do, or what is it that you do now?
Well, with the intuitive abilities, I can see everybody's best. I can see your talents, how you learn, how you communicate, the things that you love, the things that you enjoy. And then if I look deeper, I can see all the things that cause you the blocks. I can see your subconscious blocks, and I call them subconscious laws, because blocks you can walk around, you can walk over. Laws stop you dead in your tracks. Okay. And when we have the subconscious issues in our mind, it stops us that way. And so as an intuitive, I can see the best about you. I can see those blocks, those laws. And what I help you do is I help you overcome those. My program is called Wisdom, Wellness, and Wealth, because we have to be wise to what it is that's holding us back. And we have to be wise to be able to create something that's stronger than that, so we can frame it and be that new person, that authentic person within us. What is going to give us, what's going to connect us with our innermost perfect charge, our innermost perfect energy. So I do that. And then the wellness is during the process, everybody feels physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthier and stronger. And then the wealth is like Napoleon Hill talks about. We do not mastermind for money. We mastermind to become better people. And as we become better people, universe, God, creator, source sees that and rewards us. So Wisdom, Wellness, and Wealth is the program, because every single client that I've had since 2012 with this coaching program has had fantastic raises, bonuses, incredible career changes, money paid back that they thought they'd never see, incredible deals on houses and cars. So that's the wealth aspect. And I love it because even when I do the physical healings, people's emotions change, even if we don't talk with them about it at all. One of the best testimonials is John Williams. He's a retired NFL football player. And I worked with John, and we, after 3 sessions, this is a professional football player that had 4 surgeries, that was going to a chiropractor, a massage therapist, and an acupuncturist every week just to be able to do life. We did 3 sessions, 100% range of motion and 0 pain. And barely did we talk about anything personal. But after the session, John's shift was so dramatic that he called up his ex-wife. They spent 4.5 hours talking and healed the relationship between the 2 of them. And John's sons in their 40s also, he went and he repaired those relationships as well, just from the energy work. So energy is incredible. It's awesome. And it can change your entire life. So if you're feeling like every day is Groundhog's Day, if you're feeling like every day is blah, there's nothing to it, see what you can do to be able to boost your energy. What can you do? And very often we do need somebody else. We need somebody else to be able to help us through it.
Always like that. How can people find you, Joe?
So my website is profoundlyliving.com, and my email is info at profoundlyliving.com. And they can always, I'm going to have my Calendly link up there, or they can call me at 651-755-6027, and we can set up a discovery session, because I'll talk with people for 20 to 30 minutes to let them ask all the questions that they want so they can feel comfortable, because most people don't know that this kind of healing is actually even possible. And so I allow them to talk with me so they can feel comfortable to decide whether they want to work with me or not.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time with us, but of course, like all good things, everything must come to an end. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I've heard of Joe's training sessions. Joe and I have been kind of in touch and go relationship for a while. And the thing is that I see him doing great things. If you are interested in this thing, please go ahead and connect with him. Best way is, I think, find your phone number or what he said. And give us the hand movements that you talked about below in Facebook, so that people can go download that, and then you have something to go with. But ladies and gentlemen, pain is nothing that you need to live in. It's not only physical pain, sometimes your emotional pain, sometimes, there's all kinds of pain that people don't realize that they have. And this kind of healing does help you. I urge you to take this step and take this to the next level. And with that, Munira's Musing, this episode of Munira's Musing has to come to an end. Till we meet again next week, have a wonderful week and see you later. Thank you, Joe, so much.
Thank you, Munira. Thank you, everybody. And if you have questions, reach out to me. Thanks a lot. You don't need to suffer. You don't need to suffer.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group